Can you tell the difference between noob intermediate and pro?
The whole song just went like...
Hey, what's up? This is Fabio from Noize here at Boombox, the home of collaboration. Today I'm going to be taking you through music transitions and how to get them sounding from noob to intermediate to pro to make your beat drops as big as possible. Before we get started, don't forget to check out boombox.io where you can get 4 GB of free storage. It's a great place to store your audio, DAW, and MIDI files, as well as share and leave timestamp feedback, add collaborators, and organize your music into playlists to be able to share with other users. And if you want to win $500, all you got to do is comment down below with what your favorite genre of music is or whatever you like making in your studio. Let's jump in and analyze the beginner drop. So this is what most drops will sound like, and there are a few things that are creating the drop. It's the break before that makes it happen, so the change in energy. For those of you who are new to creating drops, this is the section before the chorus, the part that has the most impact, either on the radio or in the club. Now, there are some really easy things that you can do to create this contrast. The first is to take your kick, so we have our full kick here, duplicate it, and add a low cut like this. So then you have a version of the kick that's lighter. That just means that when the kick comes back in, you reintroduce the low frequencies, giving it that bass impact. Now, if you're going to do it with the kick, you might as well do it with the bass. Same thing. Here's the full bass. And then I created another version here, again, with a low frequency cut. Here they are together from the breakdown to the drop. That's making a pretty big difference, but here's one more trick that you can use as a beginner. On the last bar before the drop, so the last 4 beats of the kick or the bass, cut and mute the kick and the bass, leaving a little bit of silence. Now, I recommend you actually do this to a few parts, but the kick and the bass tend to have the most impact. Notice how when the kick and the bass are removed completely for 1 bar, it makes the drop feel even bigger.
Move your body, move your body.
This gets the listener excited for the reintroduction of those parts. Okay, let's check out the intermediate music transition and beat drop. Now, there's a few different things going on here. The first part I want to start with, which is the easiest, is the snare roll. This is creating this really nice tension up until that 1 bar break before the drop. Check it out. So it's acting as a bit of a riser and increasing that anticipation to the energy of the next section. Now, in that gap before the drop, there used to be silence. But instead, what I decided to do was fill it with this weird vocal chop, which sounds like this. Now, the vocal chop by itself, before any processing, sounds kind of boring. But I added the second layer underneath with a little alter boy, which is essentially a pitch shifter up 12 semitones. You can use any pitch shifter for this. And then I used a tape delay on a 16th with the dry all the way down and the wet all the way up and the feedback all the way at 0. So what this is doing is creating this higher pitch delay that's coming in, but a 16th after each hit of the vocal. I think it's really weird and random, and it works perfectly with the track. Now, I actually took the end of that vocal chop and created a riser out of it. Here's how I did it. Let me play you the effect first. So I chopped out just the last section like this, copy and pasted it to a new channel. And then I added an Echo Boy by Soundtoys with these settings. Wet all the way up, feedback really high, and 1/8 dotted. I've got it on the ambient mode, which kind of spreads it and diffuses it a little bit like a reverb. And then in order to be able to control the echo, I bounced and played. So I highlighted the section and then I did Control B. You can also right click and select bounce and place, hit enter. This renders it to a longer piece of audio with the tail, which you can see is super out of control and would go on forever. And then at the end of it, I was able to put on this fade. But I also recognized that it needed a bit of processing. So first I added a compressor to deal with the increase in volume as the delay feeds back on itself. I used Endless Smile by Dada Life, which is like a filter, a delay, and a reverb all together to thin it out about 3/4 of the way through and then bring it back before it fades out. And a channel EQ just to roll off some low frequencies. And altogether, it sounds like this. One final thing that I did on the intermediate drop was just add a bit of white noise on the first beat of the drop. This gives a bit of high frequency energy and presence, which can re-engage the listener. Last but not least, let's check out the pro version.
The whole song just went like.
First, I want to show you what I did to the drums. I grouped them all together, and then I added a Valhalla vintage verb, and I'm actually washing out the drums. So I'm using a really long decay here, and I'm automating the mix. Listen to this. And that's giving this arena-like feel. What's really nice about this effect is that it breaks up the drums and allows you to focus more on the other elements without them disappearing in an unnatural way. I added a second snare roll to the snare roll that I already had, but just at the end. For that added bit of energy. I also added this mega lead, which originally sounds like this. And ends up sounding like this. Here's how I did it. Throughout the drop, the lead is actually getting washed out with Endless Smile and RC20. Then on the drop, I'm using Effectrix with a tonal delay and a stutter together to create this gated rhythm. So the tonal delay is actually tuned to the root note of the key of the record. And the stutter is doing this 3/4, so this like triplet rhythm on and off. Check it out. Now, the reason I think this makes it more pro is because we've taken a very engaging sound, applied it throughout the breakdown, and then found a way to include it in the drop, which adds another layer and something else for the listener and the audience to engage with on the dance floor.
The whole song just went like.
Last but not least, I applied two very, very subtle tricks that only the pros would be able to hear. On the breakdown, I've used FabFilter Simplon to slowly reduce the high frequencies, making everything a little more dull. And then when the drop comes in, it opens up again, giving that high-end energy and presence. I'm gonna make the effect really noticeable so you can hear it.
The whole song just went like.
Obviously, I recommend using it way more subtly than that, but it's a great way of changing that shift in energy from one section to the next. 16 bars before the drop, I'm slowly reducing the volume, and I'm actually going all the way to -4 dB using gain automation. This means that when the drop comes back in, it's going to be 4 dB louder, but because the decrease in volume is so gradual, the listener won't really notice it.
The whole song just went like.
So there you have it, noob, intermediate, and pro ways to take your music transitions from the breakdown to the drop. Thanks so much everyone for watching. Don't forget, if you want to win $500, comment down below with what your favorite genre is or whatever you're producing in your studio. And don't forget to check out www.boombox.io so you can get 4 GB of free storage, share, synergize, and upload your DAW audio and MIDI files that you can collaborate with super easily with anyone that you're working with. It's been a pleasure as always, and a big love from Noize. I'll see you soon. Peace!